Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Spiritual Businesswoman podcast. I'm your host, Sky Kristen, here to help you grow in your personal and professional life. I am recording this first thing in the morning, which I'm realizing is a really good time for me. I feel like the nights lately have been really good for writing, sitting down, getting my ideas on paper, and then in the morning, I just instantly want to speak and create. So I feel like I'm finding a good groove of when to sit down and write and plan my ideas and when to act on them, because I'm not a morning person. So I would never imagine that sitting and recording a podcast first thing in the morning would feel this good, but it does. But anyways, I'm excited for this episode because this was not my plan to record this today, and it's just so crazy how many times this has happened with my podcast. I will be writing an episode or working on multiple episodes, ideas are flowing, I'm writing it down, and then I decide, okay, I'm going to record tomorrow. And immediately I feel a new idea come on, and I have to stop what I'm doing, stop writing, and just listen to this new idea. And so that's what happened the past 2 nights. I was like, okay, let me just entertain this idea. Let's see, an idea is coming. Let me take the time to write it down, and I could just get back to what I was going to record, going to keep writing later. And the idea that came, the episode that came is exactly what I'm recording right now. So even though it wasn't my initial plan, it just makes so much more sense. And I feel like that is a really important thing that I want to tap into, is the collective energy and what are we going through right now? What needs to be said right now versus me just sitting down, with my ideas and my past experiences and writing episodes and kind of just trying to make a plan for myself, a content plan that is much more organized for me, but doesn't feel truly authentic. What feels really good is when I get hit with an idea that feels very relevant right now, that who knows, maybe a lot of people need to hear, and that's why it's coming to me. That's how it feels. So today we're going to talk about making decisions and the issue of decision paralysis, not making decisions because we don't know which one to make. We literally have so many things in front of us, or it feels like no ideas are coming. We just don't even know what needs to happen next. So if you feel overwhelmed with decisions and you just literally don't know what to do next, this episode is for you. This has been such a common theme in my life, and honestly, it's kind of the whole point of this human experience. If you really think about it, it's just us making decisions, and certain decisions leading us a certain way and changing our lives. And if we didn't make this decision and meet that person and do that thing, our life wouldn't be what it is today. So it feels like a very overwhelming big deal to make decisions, and that's because it is. Certain decisions can completely change the trajectory of your life, and that can feel so overwhelming to the point where you just don't want to make a decision. You maybe have to pick between two things and you don't even want to. You want someone to choose it for you because you don't want to make the wrong decision. So I'm going to talk about what helps me make decisions, but also just the state of mind, the practices, the things that I do to get back into a place where I can make intentional decisions. And I really feel like I'm co-creating with the universe and creating my life, and feel confident and strong in the decisions that I'm making and have them feel true to me, and I just really am deciding and creating life for myself, because that is the goal. Even though sometimes it gets overwhelming and literally you'd rather someone else come in and decide for you. So let's dive into it, because I genuinely believe that every single person has the power to make their own decisions and do so confidently. So I don't know where you are in your life, what you feel like you need to decide. Maybe it's just what to do next in your career. Maybe you're finishing school or going back to school. Maybe you don't know if you should move, stay where you've been living now, or move across the country, be in the relationship that you're in, leave that relationship. There's just so many examples, and I'm gonna try to touch on a few throughout this podcast, but honestly, you know best. You know what it is. you have an idea of the decisions that you don't really know how to make right now based on your life. So whatever example I use, just this goes without saying because you'll probably do this naturally, but really just try to relate it back to you and the specific decisions that you're making or that you need to make. So first things first, I have found that it is so much easier to decide what you don't want rather than what you do want, because sometimes you want multiple things at once. I know that to be so true for myself. There has been times that I want like 5 different lifestyles. I'm picturing like 5 different scenarios or even more of like how my life could be, where I could be living, what I could be doing, like what my career could be, what I should be focusing on. And I can picture like so many different scenarios. And if I make this decision, it'll lead me this way. And this decision will lead me that way. And it gets so overwhelming that if I sit down and I'm like, okay, what do I want? The list is never ending. And I find myself falling into decision paralysis. I literally don't know what to do next because there's so many things that I want and I don't know how to pick. I don't know what the right thing is for me. All of them bring me joy. I'm just like overwhelmed and then I do nothing. So getting clear on what you don't want is going to help your decision making so much, because there could be things that you do want, maybe like a lifestyle that you want, or something that you want, a career that you want. But if one of those things lands in the list of things that you do not want for yourself in your life, then it's going to be easier to realistically look at that decision and see how you might want it. It might sound fun, but it might not be in alignment with the life that you are trying to create. So for example, back when I didn't know if I should fully stop doing lashes, which was my business before. In the moment, it wasn't like deciding between lashes and some other career. I really had no idea what else I would do. I just didn't know if I wanted to continue doing lashes and, fully see that through and expand the business and, really just continue down that path, or if I should let it go and try something else and like expand in my career, go a completely different route, even though I didn't know like what it would be. I remember going back and forth on this so many times, because even though there was a part of me that felt like I was done with lashes, like it's still to this day, I love, like if someone wants to get their lashes done, please, because the way it is so fun for me, it's like painting. It's like such a fun, relaxing experience for me to do lashes. So I still have that, but I think running the lash business and like where that was going and what that meant for me in my career, like a lot of it didn't resonate anymore. But because I had like zero backup plan, I was like, okay, but how do I decide to let this go when I have no backup plan? Like I don't even know what the other option would be. So it just felt like I had to make this decision. And it wasn't until I got super clear on what I didn't want for myself, like what I did not see for myself for my life long term, that I was able to let go of lashes, because I knew, and this was all during like COVID time, and I had just met my boyfriend at the time, and I was traveling a lot to go see him, and he lives in the US. So it was very obvious to me, okay, if this relationship continues, like there's going to be a lot of flying back and forth. And also I was just starting to travel for the first time in my life, and I loved traveling, and traveling with lashes was really hard because you need to physically be tied down somewhere to have any type of clientele business, that you need to physically be with them. Like I can't do their lashes over Zoom, you know what I mean? Like I physically need to be somewhere. So I would try to get all my clients in right before I would leave for sometimes like a 3-week to 4-week vacation, and then do other lashes as soon as I came back. And that wasn't very ideal for my clients. Sometimes they wanted a little touch up before an event or whatever. So it wasn't the best case scenario for them. And I was losing clients because of that. So when I realized that I did not want to be physically tied down anywhere for my career, I didn't want a physical location to like be the only source of income, it only made sense to pivot away from my lash business. Because as soon as I realized, okay, well, that's not what I want. I want to be able to work remote. I want freedom to travel, and I don't want to feel like I have to take time off work to travel. Like I knew that I didn't want that. and there was just no possibility, not no possibility, but to make that work with lashes, you know? Of course, there's ways to do it. I could have, I don't know, hired certain people, whatever, but it no longer made sense because it landed in the list of things that I didn't want. And so this decision that seemed so hard to make at the time, and I didn't know what to do, and I was asking everyone around me, suddenly was the easiest decision I ever made, even though I had no backup plan. So yeah, I feel like so many times I've sat down with myself and like wrote out on a list everything that I do want for myself. And personally, I find that to be very overwhelming because I want so many things, and I would be happy. Like, you're telling me like you could have a city life, farm life, jungle life, like ocean life. Like, there's so many things that you can do in this lifetime that are amazing. There's so many amazing countries to live in. There's so many amazing ways to be of service to people and different like, there's so many things that we could want. I think that list is extremely overwhelming and doesn't really help with decision making in any way. Any advice I got about just sitting down and like write down what you want, that just never has worked for me. But what has worked is sitting down and getting very clear on what I don't want. And that list is always very short. It's never been more than a page. Like, writing it in list form, like, I don't want to be tied down to a location for work. Like, I do not want that. You know, maybe it's between two jobs and one job has a really good salary, but the other job has an okay salary, but maybe offers commission. And if on your list of things of what you don't want is to be capped financially, you might find that going down the path and making the decision to go with the job that has a little less of a salary but offers you commissions per sale, then you realize there's less of a cap financially choosing that job versus the salary only job. And just things like that. Like, write down what you don't want, what you don't want to experience, what you don't want your life to look like, what you don't want to feel in your career, in your home, in your relationship, whatever it is. Like, what do you not want? And then take a look at everything that you do want, and you might find that some of those things, or making the decision, going down that path, unfortunately doesn't align, because there's things you like about it, but at the end of the day, it could be falling into things that you don't want in your life, things that you don't want to experience. And then it stops you from like getting shiny objects syndrome, where a really nice opportunity comes in that like doesn't align with the lifestyle you want. Like me, for example, not wanting to be tied down to a physical location for work. Like, what if a company down the street from me in Toronto offers me the best job ever with like a crazy salary and just like something that I feel like I can't say no to, but I have to physically stay in Toronto and can't travel more than maybe once or twice a year. You know, suddenly it's like, oh, that does seem great, and it is great. But for me personally, and this is the thing, the things that you don't want doesn't have to make sense to other people. Like, it just has to make sense to you. What do you not want? What do you not want to experience? What doesn't resonate with you? So it's like, if I know myself and I know what I don't want, I know what I'm trying to not create, I know what I want my life to be, and there's many ways to get there, but it's like, here comes this opportunity, and even though it's an amazing opportunity, it isn't what I want. It isn't what I'm trying to create. And it makes it easier to filter through the unlimited, the infinite ideas, the infinite paths that you can go down in this lifetime. So get clear on what you don't want. Okay, the next thing I want to touch on, I feel like I have to say, and again, it really is something that I maybe needed to hear, and that's why I want to say it, but I feel like a lot of people need to hear this, so I don't know if this is going to resonate with everybody, but I still, at the same time, I feel like a lot of people need to hear this, and it's that the best decision isn't always the one that's going to make you the most money. I feel like this is a very common theme for a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people are currently in situations or are making decisions towards what will bring in the most money. And it doesn't mean that that is the best decision or even the right decision. And like, let me explain that. When you ignore everything else that you care about, that you value, and you are just strictly making decisions based off what you think is going to bring in the most money. For all you know, that decision that you're making isn't actually the one that would bring you in the most money. If you could just open up your mind and also prioritize other things that are very valuable to you, there could be a decision that you're not even noticing that actually is going to bring you way more money than that one. And I'm not saying that going for the decision that's going to bring the most money is like a bad decision or shallow at all. I do not resonate with that at all. Like, I'm not sitting here and letting you know that there's more to life and like don't just follow the money. It's not that. Honestly, most people that I know, myself included, you're doing it to help your families. You're doing it to donate more. You're doing it to give back. You're doing it to have more, to give more. Like, you're not shallow. You're not just chasing the money because that's all you care about. You want to change the world in a positive way. And so this is how you're in a sense like sacrificing yourself and your wants and everything you want to do and the other things you value, and you're just going straight for the money because you're sacrificing yourself for like this bigger purpose. So it's not that going for that and wanting to help people isn't honorable. It is. I'm just saying that sacrificing yourself by only going and making that decision based on what's going to bring in the most money, that could be getting in the way of making another decision or realizing that you can make another decision that's going to help you positively impact people even more in so many more ways and financially. I think it's easy to think that making this decision that maybe doesn't feel right, doesn't light you up, maybe is toxic to you, to your mind, body, soul, a soul sucking job potentially. But in what you're looking at, in all the decisions that you have to make, just feels like the best one, feels like the one that's going to bring in the most money, even though you have to sacrifice so much of sometimes your own values for it. I feel like thinking this way and deciding from this place is so limiting to the mind and stops you from being able to see and then step into what else is out there for you that could, like, just financially be way better than that decision, and also meet your needs, and also not be in toxic environment, and also feed your soul and help people and positively impact people and change the world. I think we need to let go of this idea that you can't have it all, that there has to be sacrifice and struggle. And I'm not saying I don't agree with those things, because I don't even see those things as bad. I see those things as honorable. I see those things as really living in a higher, bigger purpose. But it's just maybe shifting this mindset that we have towards, oh, well, what I want and what feels good to me, like, is bad or doesn't matter or isn't productive. Like, I just, like, I'll struggle and I'll sacrifice myself for this and, like, for this greater purpose, when I don't think that is true. I think those that honor themselves, what they value, what they want, go for that, put their whole soul into what they're doing, that passion, I feel like that passion does get rewarded, and staying true to yourself gets rewarded. And listen, if you are making decisions solely based on how much money that can bring in, you clearly value the tool, the resource that is money. You're ambitious enough to sacrifice everything else that you care about for it. That's not going to go away. That ambition, that spark, that what you have in you, what you want to do with that tool, with that resource of money, that still exists in you. And that's not going to go away if you let yourself feel good and tap into more of you, more of what feels right to you. A lot of the times, and there's so many examples out there, I think of people who play sports, I think of artists. I think to live a true, authentic life and do everything that you were meant to do while you were here, the decisions that you make in your life that change your life, that change you and how you get to show up in the world, there is a reality where you can allow these decisions to meet most of your needs, if not all your needs, and not just one of your needs. So I took the example of money just because that is what came to me. Maybe that's what resonates with me and the people around me and who needs to hear this, but you can relate that back to so many things. Here, I can relate it back to a relationship right now. you could think that maybe staying with this person out of what you see and all of your options and whatever it is, staying with this person that where you do feel love, like that is your biggest opportunity to feel love in this lifetime, and you really want to feel love, and that's very important to you. And here's like, out of all the options you see, the most obvious one that's going to bring you the most love, but you're ignoring so many of your other needs to be there. There's a reality where if you allowed the decisions that you make to meet most of your needs, if not all of them, maybe you would leave that relationship and then find yourself diving into a deep self-love journey and meeting your own needs, and eventually meeting someone who does meet all your needs and is an even greater love than you could have even ever imagined for yourself. So the main message here is not to sacrifice majority of your needs to just follow one of them, because it's, again, not always the best one, and again, not always the right one. Okay, next thing that I want to talk about, which is so important, and again, just a huge theme in my life, and I feel like I could talk about this forever, is knowing how do you want to feel. Now, this has always been better than asking for what you want, because at least for me, a lot of the times what I wanted wouldn't even produce the feeling that I want to feel, and that's the real experience. We want a feeling. We want to feel a positive experience of doing that thing or having that thing or whatever it is. And a lot of times, if you're not really tapped into how you want to feel in your everyday life, in your relationship, in your career, the list of things that you want could be just like what you think you should want, what others around you want, what people talk about wanting. If you're in a place where you have so many things to decide between, let's say, so back to just like indecision, decision paralysis, how many of those options, how many of those decisions bring in how you actually want to feel? Because the thing is, and this is going to sound, at least to me, like repetitive, and I'm not saying you've never heard this before, but honestly, even if you have, the brain loves repetition. We know this. And so this is your reminder. You need to feel it first. That's how it works. The amount of things that I thought I wanted and I went for, and they didn't, and once I got them, they didn't give me the feeling that I thought they would. It takes a couple times of doing this, I think, personally, for you to actually tap into the fact that, yeah, it's not like out there. It's not by like reaching that goal or having that thing or doing that thing. Like that's, you don't get there and then feel it. You feel it. You feel what you want to feel. You tap into that and you follow that feeling, and where that takes you, like almost just then amplifies that feeling. Like, I think of the amount of times on vacation, like to beautiful places that I've been to, that you just see people who are not enjoying themselves or like just like don't seem happy to be there. And you see some people who like are crying because of how happy they are to be there, and they can't believe it. And, you know, obviously this is just like me looking around. I don't know their life story, nothing, but like, I don't know if you're like this. I feel like I always just like think, I'm like, oh, I wonder like what's going on there. And I try to like dissect the situation. But it's like, I wonder if a lot of people think like, once I go on this vacation, once I go here, once I get this car, once I do that, like I'll be happy. And it's like, there's just so many examples out there of like depressed people who seem to have it all, that are just not happy in like the next car they get, the next house, the next vacation. They're just not getting that feeling that we all want, because they think that feeling is somewhere, and they think by achieving the next thing they'll get it. It's like, that's what I think when I see these people, you know, on vacation that look like they just like don't want to be there, aren't having fun. It's like, I wonder if it's just like a moment of realization of like, wow, I'm here and like nothing changed, or like I still feel this way. So feeling it first is so important and helps the guidance of the decision making, especially being in those feelings when you make certain decisions. I find it so hard to make decisions. Like the worst time to make a decision, or to like look at my life and like have everything, all my options open and like try to think, the worst time to be doing that, making decisions, is when I'm not tapped in to how I want to feel, the feelings I want to experience most of the time. Because again, there's ebbs and flows, but you're allowed to decide how you want to feel most of the time, and that can be your emotional average. I can't think of the right word right now, but like, you are allowed to choose where you stand most of the time emotionally and how you want to feel. When I'm not tapped into that, or like the opposite, I'm feeling like the exact opposite of how I want to feel, and I'm making decisions from that place, it just has never been a good time to make those decisions. I feel like I either step into immediately feeling overwhelmed, or I'm making decisions based out of fear. And we'll get into that, but I really want to talk about actually connecting to how you want to feel. When you are connected to what you want more of, what you're calling in. And for example, like, you know, after a day of being in nature all day, or being with your friends and going for a hike, or going to like swim in the lake, having a fire outside, having your feet in the grass, like just a full day of grounding. And then let's say you're just sitting and watching the lake or watching the sunset. In those moments, like, how easy is it to make certain decisions, or to just see things clearly? Or it's like, I find being in nature is the easiest way to come back to this, but it's like that moment of reconnecting with yourself, knowing what you want, what you value. Like, you just had a full day of feeling good and grateful and love and joy and excitement and playfulness, like all these positive feelings that you want to feel majority of the time. When you're in that, I find it like so much easier to make decisions. You don't even really have to think. You're just like, of course this is what I want. Like, yes, I do want to say yes to that job. I really do. I do want to move there. I really want to move there. There's a big part of me that wants to move there. I feel happy thinking of that place. Like, I feel like all the things that maybe you thought you wanted, maybe you wanted out of fear, maybe you wanted because other people wanted. Like, there's so many things out there. There's so many lifestyles being shown online. There's so many opinions coming our way from your parents, your friends, like people online, all of it. And not all of them are for you. You know what's for you. You know what you came here to do. And tapping into how you want to feel, and then looking at this, list, or looking at your options, I feel like it becomes so much easier to make those decisions, or at least just start thinking about them, putting more time, more thought into, okay, like, what am I trying to do? Where am I trying to move? Whatever it is. It's so much easier to be in that space and think so much more clearly about all of it when you are tapped into how you want to feel. So if you are feeling very indecisive, it is so clear to me that it is time to reconnect with yourself, because that has always been true to me. Every time I feel just very indecisive, almost like, universe, please decide for me, because I can't. Like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know what's calling me. I have no idea. And I'm almost like looking outwards for the answer. I've always felt more lost, because that's not the way that you're going to get there. So again, if you are feeling indecisive, it is time to reconnect with yourself. You have the answers. I know it's hard to believe, like, you have all the answers that you need, and it's just about finding them within yourself. I think, okay, so you might have practices already that you do, that when you like sit down and you read, or you do your meditation or breath work or whatever it is, that you come back to yourself. And I just looked at the clock and it says 11:11. You might already have those practices for yourself. And if you're feeling this way, I'm calling you to get back to those practices. But if you don't, or you don't even know where to start, or just nothing feels good, nothing resonates at all, the easiest way, because I've been there. I've been in places where I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, can someone please tell me what the fuck is going on? Like, what am I supposed to do? What decision I'm supposed to make? Like, am I in this moment living the way I'm supposed to? Like, what's happening? Like, in those moments, which maybe you're in right now, the easiest way to get back to yourself is reconnecting with nature. You don't need to even know what you're doing out there. Don't put thought into it. Don't be like, when I'm out here and I'm gonna release, I'm gonna do this. Sometimes I intentionally connect with nature. I'm grounding. I'm like literally picturing, the anxiety coming through like the soles of my feet. I'm hugging trees. I'm like picturing the tree like taking this weight off. I'm looking at the lake, the waves are like causing my problems to just like melt away, and it's very intentional, and it's like a date with nature. So I do recommend that. However, there's been times where I just like, I need to go outside and touch grass. Like, you don't need to think too deeply about it. Go outside, be barefoot, touch grass, go sit by a body of water, go watch a sunset, lay on the grass, and think. Let your mind think. Let your thoughts continue coming. Try to be an observer of them, but don't try to stop them. Just be in nature, let them come, observe your thoughts, try to observe them like clouds, passing by, but let them happen. Don't feel guilty for them. That in itself is a release. Like, that to me is like a way of journaling. Like, when you start journaling, your head is like a fucking mess, or at least mine is, and you're journaling and it's a mess, and even the way you're writing, or you're jumping here and there and you don't know, and it slowly starts to clear out towards the end, and you came to certain realizations through that journaling practice, or you read it back and you're able to see, and then from an outside perspective, like, oh, I'm feeling triggered, or I was projecting this, or whatever the case may be, or I felt betrayed, or I'm doing this out of fear, whatever. I feel very similar when I go out in nature and I let my thoughts race in my head, and I just lay there and I let them race, and I look at them. I try to observe them from an outside perspective, but easier said than done. But I let myself think them. I don't try to push it away or like feel guilty or be like, I'm supposed to be connecting with nature right now and not thinking this way. Why is my mind racing? Just stop thinking. Just sit here and enjoy nature. Like, no, just let the thoughts come. They want to be explored. Explore them. And just naturally being in nature is going to help you get more clear, help you reconnect with yourself, help things make more sense. You don't really have to do much. Like, honestly, Mother Nature is always there for us. She has never failed me, ever. But to recap, know how you want to feel. Look at how much that you want, or that you're deciding between, will actually bring more of those feelings, allow you to really step into how you want to feel most of the time, but also feel that first. Feel those feelings first, tap into those feelings, go into nature, meditate, do what you need to do, get back to your self practices that allow you to step into those emotions that you want to feel most of the time. Sit in that, and then allow this conversation of what you're supposed to do next come up in that state. Not in the opposite, not in an anxious state and not knowing. Like, that is truly, I find, when we make decisions out of fear or out of not wanting to hurt other people or whatever it is. Like, coming back to you, be selfish, man. I just feel like I need to say that. Be selfish. It's okay to make decisions based off what you want and how you want to feel. And that is your biggest service to anyone around you. You being the most you and feeling how you want to feel, like, that light is going to impact everyone around you. It might trigger them, but even that is a service. Even that is helping them. Be selfish. Know what you want to feel. Tap into that. And honestly, I feel like I don't even have to search for the answers when I'm in that place. When I'm in the opposite of that, when I'm not feeling how I want to feel, I feel like I'm searching for the answer. When I feel how I want to feel, the answers come to me. And the last thing that I want to talk about today, which is a little similar to what we just talked about, but also different and very important, is connecting to your inner compass / your intuition. So there's knowing how you want to feel, and then there's knowing how you feel. How does a certain decision make you feel? Do you feel yourself considering it, or maybe wanting to make that decision out of fear, out of not wanting to disappoint people, not wanting to hurt people? Is guilt or shame leading this decision? And so that's why I wanted to talk about how it's important to know how you want to feel, because naturally, when it comes to needing to make decisions, needing to take the next step, like, what do I want to do next? When you're aware of how you want to feel, it's easier to tap into how you're actually feeling, how a certain decision actually makes you feel, and being able to recognize the difference, because that is your inner compass. That is your intuition. If a decision doesn't feel right, that is an indicator that maybe it's not what you want. Maybe you're making this decision, again, out of fear, out of shame, to not disappoint people around you, because you're worried about what people are going to think. Like, your inner compass, your intuition is always guiding you towards what is right for you. And the thing with that, I was about to say the problem with that, but it's not a problem. The thing with that is hard is your inner compass, what is right for you, might make sense to no one. It might make sense to no one in your life. And so imagine that. Imagine this inner guidance created specifically for you, knows exactly what is right for you and what decisions need to be made to create the life that you want, that is unique to you and your energy. Imagine no one else understanding or supporting that. That is a very tough place to be in, because it makes you feel wrong. It makes you feel like what you want, what is right for you, is wrong, and therefore that couldn't be the answer, because how does this person think this and that person think that? Listen, what I've learned by listening to my intuition and my inner compass and really building that connection, the strength I have with my own intuition, what it has taught me is that maybe you connecting to your inner compass and what those decisions that you want to make, I know there's a possibility that doesn't make sense to me. However, I recognize someone that is tapped in. I can recognize someone following their intuition, and therefore I know that it doesn't have to make sense to me. It only has to make sense to them. I know that because I am tapped into my intuition. I am following my inner compass, and I understand that it doesn't have to make sense to people outside of me and only me. So because I do that, I am able to recognize that in others. So I want to let you know that anyone who doesn't understand your inner compass, what you need, the decisions that you're making, anyone who doesn't understand and it makes no sense to them and feel the need to tell you that or to tell you to do otherwise, most of the time that person subconsciously is saying all of that or projecting those feelings because they are not tapped into their inner compass, or they have been ignoring their intuition for so long. So seeing you tapped into yours, seeing you live by your inner compass is subconsciously, they could not even be aware. That could be insanely triggering to them. And how they know to deal with that is because it's triggering, it must be wrong, I must tell them. So anyone who is not supporting or at least trying to understand your way of being, most of the time have been ignoring themselves for who knows how long, that is then how that is being projected outwards to you. So again, your intuition always knows what's best for you. And I know that's hard to imagine sometimes. Sometimes it feels like you don't have an intuition, like you don't have an inner compass, and you can't connect to what you want or what you should want or should do. But that is a lie. You are just disconnected from your intuition right now. It is a lie that to ever believe that you don't know what's best for you. And there's so many reasons as to why you could be feeling this way. Maybe someone told you that you are bad at making decisions, that you don't know how to make decisions, that they know best and they're going to just tell you, and don't try to decide for yourself because you don't know how to do it. Maybe that was literally like ingrained in your brain. Maybe you've made certain decisions that end up being bad decisions and brought you to a bad place, and now you just like feel like you can't trust yourself. Or you're literally insanely afraid of hurting other people or disappointing other people. There's literally so many reasons why you could believe that you don't know best for yourself, that you literally don't have a strong intuition or inner compass, and like you need others to decide for you. There's a lot of reasons and a lot of repetition and certain traumas that could cause you to believe that, but it's a lie. It is always going to be a lie that you don't know what's best for you. That is a lie. And that is a lie that a lot of people like to take advantage of. So first things first, to try to like melt away some of this fear, is that there is no wrong decisions ever. They're all lessons always. Even if you feel like you've made bad decision after bad decision. I met this guy in Costa Rica whose life story is insane. And he basically explained, where he came from, and he made a lot of bad decisions. A lot of bad decisions that truly brought him to rock bottom. Like you cannot even imagine. And that was all right. That was all exactly how it should have happened, because him hitting rock bottom, him being where he was at, inspired him to completely shift his life, turn his life completely around, being the healed person that he now is, and having the lessons and the offerings that he now has. He is now touching so many people, saving so many lives, healing so many people. Like his purpose and mission and creativity, everything that he does is so honorable. He is such an amazing person, and it just goes to show that there is zero wrong decision, because if he didn't get as low as he got, maybe he wouldn't have gotten as high as he now is. So this fear that you might have that you don't make right decisions or you've made bad decisions in the past, that's also like a weird illusion and just isn't true. And there's lessons in everything. And sometimes making the bad decision, like the quote unquote wrong decision, was the perfect decision, was exactly the decision you needed to make. You needed to move across the country to realize, oh fuck, this matters to me. I want this for myself. There is just literally no such thing as the wrong decision. And so when it comes to connecting back to your intuition, if you feel like you don't have a strong relationship with your intuition, you can't really listen to this inner compass because you feel like it's pointing you in a million different directions. We have a lot of inner conversations happening all the time. And for a long time, I thought that my anxious thoughts was my intuition. And that is not true at all. And my life was being led by anxious thoughts, by, fearful thoughts that I thought was my intuition speaking to me and, making decisions for me. And this might be true to you as well. So let me teach you how I learned the difference between my anxiety and my intuition, because those are completely different things, but those are two things that are speaking to you from the inside. And it really is a practice to start to understand which one is which and which one is leading your life. So anxiety sounds like anxiety. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Anxiety sounds and feels rushed, anxious, chaotic, fearful. Like I feel like listening to my anxious thoughts, it puts me in a fearful place. And I guess just the best way to describe it is like rushed decisions, rushed speaking, like even the anxious thoughts in my own body, in my head, everything's rushed and fast and what if, and thinking of every case scenario and trying to like look at all these options and everything that's happening to me and really try to like understand, but in a very rushed and fearful way. And again, for a long time, I thought that was my intuition, like warning me and bringing me down like the right way and looking at all the wrong ways and the wrong things that could happen and like just leading me towards where I'm supposed to go. And I didn't realize I was being led by fear and anxiety and not my intuition. And I didn't know what decision to make. That's the thing. Your anxiety never really knows what decision to make. And so it's not the right person to be listening to. But that is how anxiety sounds and feels to me. That I'm trying to find the best way to explain it. If you have anxiety, I'm sure you are understanding what I'm trying to put down. But that's anxiety. That is your anxiety speaking to you all the time. Rushed, loud, chaotic. Like your heart starts beating. Talking about this right now, my heart is beating. That is like a physical thing that's happening just thinking about anxiety. And intuition will never sound like that. Ever. I've noticed. Ever. Intuition will always sound like a soft whisper, like a calming energy, like a little push, a little pivot. I literally picture intuition like you're walking one way and your intuition just comes in and like gently puts its hands on your shoulders and just kind of pivots your body. And it's just like, maybe try walking this way a little bit. Like, it's just calm and gentle. But when you're used to the anxiety, when you're used to the rushed thoughts, when you're used to thinking worst case scenario and, how can I make sure this doesn't happen? It's a lot of just more like fight or flight. How do I stay alive? What do I do next? What's the right decision? How do I not hurt people? It's also a lot of what people have taught you, people have projected onto you, put onto you, beliefs you picked up everywhere. Like, that will come through as anxiety, as anxious thoughts, limiting thoughts, doubting thoughts. And when it comes to decision making, this is the worst person to listen to, this inner critic, this inner voice that, again, for so long I thought was intuition. I was like, that's my intuition talking to me again, and thank God for my intuition for making sure I didn't go that way, make that decision, when it's like, no, I was being absolutely led by fear. Totally. I was making decisions based out of fear. And I never really got to make any intentional, good feeling decisions from that place. And now understanding that, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It doesn't mean I don't get anxious thoughts. It doesn't mean they don't like show up and try to protect me and decide things for me. It's still there, but I know not to sit down and take it so literal and really listen to that person like that person knows what's best for me. And if I'm having a lot of anxious thoughts, that is my reminder that I'm not really fully in this moment connected to my inner compass. I'm not feeling how I want to feel. Everything is a little blurry, and I know from experience this is not a good place to be in to make any kind of decisions. And this is not going to be where I'm going to find the decision that feels the most authentic to me and really is the decision that is going to allow me to be a co-creator of my life and like really bring in what I'm trying to do. I know from experience this is not where I should be. And so now when it happens, it's just like that awareness. It's just knowing that. And immediately I feel the disconnect with me and my intuition, and I want to get back to that. And I know getting back to that is coming back to how I want to feel, reconnecting with myself, with my body, with my breath, with nature, sitting in those good feelings, sitting in the feelings that I'm trying to bring in. And when I'm in that place, it's easier to hear my intuition because, again, your intuition is a soft whisper and your anxious thoughts are fucking loud screaming in your head. So it's hard to listen to your intuition when that's happening. And getting back to yourself, reconnecting with yourself, being still with yourself, I have found that to be the easiest way to get back to hearing my intuition and being able to clearly see the next steps, have clarity to at least what is the next step in these decisions that I do need to be making soon, let's say, and what feels right and what feels authentic and what feels like intentional decision making towards what I'm genuinely trying to do here, what feels like me, what resonates, what allows me to take a deep breath. So that is everything for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you did. Let me know if this helped you. Again, I love just listening to my intuition and tapping into what feels like needs to come out. And I love being a vessel. I love having this platform. I love being able to share this and like have this come through. And that is me listening to my intuition. Me recording this podcast right now, even though that wasn't my plan and I had something else written and I was going to record that today, but tapping into this, spending time writing this last night when a part of me, the more anxious part of me was like, you already have a episode started, just start, like keep writing that one and like don't get sidetracked. Like that was louder, and I kept having a soft whisper to write this and record this today, and I'm really happy that I did, and this feels like an intentional decision that I made. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please follow this podcast, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next episode. Bye!